Hey guys, welcome back to Living with No Excuses. I'm Noah Galloway. And, with the podcast, we've gone different ways when we first started it. And now we've really set the pace. We are interviewing amazing people that have done incredible things. And I'm really excited about today's guest. It's Michael Laughlin. He is a fireman. He is the first and only above the knee amputee fireman in Canada.
Please help me. I think I'm dying. Tell my family I love them.
He's broken everything in his body. He gave up his leg.
Don't give up. And I walk in the door of our house on Dog Lake, and Jen's laying on the couch sleeping. I didn't think anything of it. I'd rather crash the snowmobile 100 times than go through this, right? Losing someone you love and feeling like you're kind of responsible because you couldn't stop it and you didn't know. I didn't deal with it properly. Addiction's real. Ultimately, I got arrested. I'm just this big dirtbag. And so I went from having this huge, great firefighter, you're the man identity to, you're just a dirtbag. Turned things around, started working out, getting in shape, and life was good again. Fast forwarding to 2016, been through a lot at this point. And so I'm out for a ride on my Harley Davidson over a hill, and all of a sudden, boom, I watched my legs snap off. And I remember thinking to myself, I just killed myself again. A year and a half later, I became the first firefighter ever in Canada with an above-knee amputation.
And we are lucky enough to have Michael with us today. Mike, dude, I am honored to have you on the show.
Buddy, thank you very much. It's my honor to be here. It's I've been following you and watching what you're doing, and it inspires me, right, to keep my thing going and keep doing what I do. So.
Well, you've been what is it 25 years? How long have you been a fireman?
Yeah, 25 years.
25 years?
Yeah. And almost 22 as a full-time firefighter. I started as a volunteer part-time and worked my way into a full-time position. Yeah.
Now, and you're in Kingston,
Ontario.
Yeah. Kingston, Ontario. Now, I remember when we were messaging, I asked how far that was from Simcoe. I thought that's close. Nowhere near it. Nowhere near it.
It's a little ways.
Yeah. You're up on Lake Ontario, right?
Yeah, we're right on Lake Ontario. Yeah.
Like heading towards Montreal?
So Montreal would be 3 hours east of us.
Oh, okay. So you're still away from there.
Yeah, well, between Montreal and Toronto, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you the same distance north as Toronto, or are you further north? What's the temperature there right now?
Right now, it's today was pretty good. It was about 12, 14 degrees. We just got finished winter. It was minus last week. It was minus degrees, right? It was -2, minus. We go by Celsius too, by the way. So you're
I know.
But yeah, it was minus.
Yeah. Did y'all get a lot of snow up there?
Oh yeah. Not a ton in Kingston, but we do get enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I want to jump right into the meat of this story first. So you're an above the knee amputee. When did that happen? How did it happen? Walk us through it.
June 6, 2016. I was out for a ride on my motorcycle. So I grew up on a farm, right? So I rode dirt bikes and four-wheelers and snowmobiles and anything with an engine that went fast, right? And so, as soon as I could have a motorcycle, I did, and I rode. So I was out for a ride. I was on a windy back road, enjoying myself, doing about 60 kilometers an hour, not going real fast because it was a windy road. And I'm going along, and all of a sudden I see a flash of brown in the corner of my eye, and boom, I get hit, and it was a deer. A deer had came out of the ditch and ran into the side of me. So I got in a speed wobble on my bike, and I actually got control of the bike, and I didn't go down. And while I was trying to get control of it, though, I wasn't paying attention, and I look up, and there's a 90-degree turn in the road. And so I try to turn as hard as I can, and I'm counter steering as hard as I can, and I'm not even in any time to brake really, and my peg scraping off the ground. I'm turning so hard. I've almost made the corner, and my back tire just touches the shoulder of the road, and the bike just shoots in from under me. And so immediately I think, don't hit your head, right? I'm a firefighter. I've been to so many motorcycle accidents. When you hit your head, you're done. And I only had a little skull cap on. I'm on a Harley. I have a skull cap, right? So as I'm going down, I'm like, don't hit your head. And I try to ride it out of my butt. And I bounce off the road on my butt, bounce again. I shoot down into the ditch, and I'm going feet first into the ditch, and I watch my leg hit a rock, a big rock that came out of the ground, and snap right off at the knee. And then I laid there, and then the bike came in after me, hit the rock, and fell on top of me. And so all of a sudden, I'm feeling like the the bike's on top of me. I can feel the motor or the muffler burning me. And I'm like thinking to myself, oh my God, I just killed myself. Like, this is it. Right. And right away, my instinct kicks in. I gotta save myself. Right. And I go into firefighter mode. And I don't know how to explain it, and I don't know how I was able to do that or go from victim to firefighter, but I went right into firefighter mode. And so I'm like, what do I got to do? Get the bike off me. And I throw the bike off me, and I look down, and my knee is dislocated at the knee, holding on by a little bit of skin. So it was ripped off. And I saw a little white ball down at the end of my leg. I'm like, what's that ball? And it was my ankle ball. My foot was ripped off and peeled off, and the ball of my ankle, the white ball of my ankle, the ankle sticking out. And I'm like, what the, right? This is like a horror movie. Like, can't get any worse. So I go right into action. I pull my belt out. I tourniquet my leg as best I can, right? As people that use tourniquets, like, you're not going to get a great one, but you're going to slow it down a little bit, right? So I reefed on as good as I could, got the blood slowed down, and then I pulled the phone out of my pocket. And I was like, I remember thinking I got one shot at dialing this number, and instead of dialing 911, I dialed the fire department number because I knew they're my people. They're going to come get me right away.
Yeah.
And so I got the number the first try, and they answered the phone. Hey, Mike, how are you? Because it came up Mike on the phone, and I'm like, I'm dying in a ditch on North Shore Road. I'm at the very end. Come get me. I think I'm going to die, right? And they kept me on the line the whole time, 17 minutes in the ditch, and then there was the long wait for someone to come get me. And during that time, a car had driven by up on the road. It didn't see me. I was down in the ditch, and so I'm like, I can't. That could have been my savior, right? I better do something about this. So I could reach some of the bike parts that were broke off the bike. The bike was smashed up, and I was throwing them up on the road. And I took my helmet off, and I throw it up on the road. And I'm like, someone will stop and see the stuff on the road. They'll know something's up, right? And luckily enough, the next car stopped. And to the corner of the edge of the shoulder of the road, a lady walks up, a little old lady, and I figure she's going to look at this and be like, nope, right? I can't. Pretty gory scene to walk up on, and she did. She crawled down into the ditch, and see, I told you it would do it to me. But she came up and she put her arms around me, and she said, "It's going to be okay." And to this day, it really chokes me up because people don't stop for people, right? People do their best they see a car accident, they do their best to avoid it. They drive around it and get the heck out of there. They don't want anything to do with it. They walk over top of people on a sidewalk that's passed out. I'm not going to check that person. They're not my responsibility, right?
Yeah.
That's the day and age we live in. And so this lady went out of her way and came down and told me that I was going to be okay. And at that time, I was pretty lonely in that ditch right there, thinking I was going to die. I was telling them to say goodbye to my family for me on the phone. And she's the little pick me up that I needed. That little spark. I was like, I'm going to make it. She stopped. She's helping me. I'm going to make it, right? And luckily, my mom tracked that lady down, and we were able to thank her. And I thought for sure she'd be a nurse or like a retired paramedic or something, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, she was a school teacher, but just a really good-hearted person that made a difference that day. And when I talk to people, I tell them, I'm like, don't be that person that walks over that person, right? You could be the person that helps that person get through that day, right?
And all she did was just there to hold you.
Just told me it was going to be okay, just to be there. I wasn't alone in the ditch anymore, bro. It was unreal. And so then I heard the sirens coming, and I was like, okay, the boys are on their way, right? And it gave me a little adrenaline rush. I'm like, yeah, the boys are right. They're going to come save me. And they got there, and I knew the first firefighter that got there and knew me. And so, a bit of a shock for him. And they packaged me up, and they get me in the ambulance, and we get into, 25-minute ride. But I was out in the sticks. I was pretty far out in the country, and it was a long old ride into the hospital. I was pretty broken, and I get into, we back into the hospital. They emerge, and the doors open, and there's two lines of fire department personnel that had been listening to me on the phone in dispatch. So the dispatch is in a building with all the chiefs and training and prevention. And I know all these people, and they were all listening to me, possibly saying my last words to them. Right. And as soon as the fire truck said, we're kind of clear, they all piled into vehicles and they raced down to the hospital, and they formed a tunnel. And like, I got wheeled through that tunnel, man. And at the very end was the fire chief. And he leaned over and he saw my leg was not attached and he saw what was going on. And he leaned over and said, Mike, you know, whatever happens, he goes, I promise you, you'll still have a job. With KFR, you'll still be part of this fire department. And dude, I you know, you have a lot of time to think when you're riding into that ambulance and stuff. And I was thinking my life's over. I was a single guy. My whole life was the fire department, dude. And you know, I thought it was over. I'm like, I just ruined my life. I'm gonna lose my job, I'm gonna lose my house, I'm gonna lose everything, right? And so another big turning point right there was that fire chief leaning over, Chief Sean Armstrong, leaned over and said, "You're going to still have a job here no matter what." That was huge for me.
Now, how long had you been a fireman at this point?
So at that time, I'd been a firefighter for 16 years, right? So, you know, long enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
wow. You know, I got to say, you know, before we started recording, you know, we asked you what was off limits, and my producer said, so you're okay if we talk about something that makes you, you know, if you start crying, and you're like, and when you said, well, sometimes when I share my story, I get choked up. And I had said, you know, I understand. I'll tell you what, like it was like, I felt it when you're telling that story. There's so much about that, from the lady that stopped, or just you talking about that moment of being there. Was the adrenaline pumping? Did the pain kick in? Like when you were laying in that ditch, even before she stopped, it's amazing that your fireman skills kicked in. Like that shows your profession, what you do, and that's amazing. But what about the pain?
Yeah. So when guys like us say we're at a 10 out of 10 pain, it's a real 10 out of 10, right? So yeah. Our scales are a little different than other people's, right? Yeah, I was, when I say that it was taking every last bit of my human being to not lay down and just give up,
yeah.
Right? I think you'll understand that. I just want everything's tugging at you to say, give up. Just like, you can't do this. You're not going to, you know, it's too much. And the whole time you're gritting your teeth being like, I can do this, you know, and you're fighting it off the whole time. Yeah, I know I was feeling all that pain and all that, but I've just always been a fighter, man. When you hear some more of my backstory, you know, it was my second go around at this. And so I had some experience in surviving, and I've, you know, I attributed a lot to sports. I played the highest level of sports all through, and I just love to win. I don't want to lose. Yeah. And, you know, giving up is losing, right? And I've never given up in my life, and I wasn't about to start in that ditch. I was going to win, right? And that was kind of part of it, right? It sounds silly, but it's the truth.
No, it doesn't. It makes perfect sense. Like I could just, you know, I've always, you know, when you think of when people let go, when that time comes, you know, not saying that people that let go, you never know what their time is, what's going on, but no, that moment of, no, I don't want that darkness and bright light to come into my life yet. You know what I mean? I want to keep hanging on right here. That's amazing. Now you mentioned your past. Let's talk about where you came from. Tell me about your childhood. You know, so you're from Kingston?
Yeah, so I'm from Joyceville. It's a little farm community outside of Kingston. So yeah, basically from Kingston, but I grew up on a farm, dude. So I was throwing hay.
What kind of farm?
Beef cattle. We had some horses, some pigs. Sometimes we had chickens all the time. Yeah. So it was a hobby farm, but we farmed, right? And we did hay in the summer, and you know, that's where I first got my, like, you know, work ethic. Is like, you have to chip in, right? And you weren't getting paid for it. You just had to do it. And you have to go shovel, you know, in the morning before school. But, you know, the other kids weren't doing that stuff. And so, you know, right away, I was always a more muscular kid than everyone else, and a bigger kid, right? And it was just because of what I did growing up. And we, you know, we ate beef, you know, we're a steak and potato family, right? So we ate well, and and then as soon as I could get into sports, I did, right in public school. And that just fed into, you know, I started playing hockey, and I played at the highest level. I was actually drafted to the OHL, which is like major junior here in Canada.
Oh, wow.
And played with a couple guys that made the NHL, were regulars in the NHL. And I played fastball, won a national championship in fastball, played rugby and football, won every year of the championship every year of high school. So we were good. And we had a lot of, you know, we had a good group. But I was always the captain of the team, right? Just the biggest jock you'd ever see, right? So that was where, you know, that was my whole childhood, right? Growing up, just playing sports, and I had a great family. I have a younger brother, older sister. We're all a year and a half apart, so very competitive. Fighting and carrying on. It's awesome, and we're close now. And then I had great parents. I grew up with great parents. They gave us everything we needed, whatever it was. They made it work. They made it happen. So my mom's a nurse, or was a nurse, sorry, and my dad was an electrician, had his own electrical company. So yeah, we grew up good, grew up with a great family. And then so after high school, actually my last year of high school, I took a co-op with the fire department. So I actually knew, I wanted to be a hockey player. That didn't pan out. When you're playing with guys that make the NHL, you realize really quickly, okay, I'm not there, right? And so I finished junior, and at that time I was like, I know I'm not going to be an NHL hockey player, but what's the next best thing? And firefighting is so closely related to hockey. So you're in the station, you're waiting for a call, and you're hanging out, you're pulling pranks, you're doing your thing, doing some work, right? It's like being in the dressing room. You're getting ready for the game, goofing around a little bit, but you're getting ready for business. Then you get a call, it's all business, right? You're saving lives. You could be going to someone's last day. You don't know what you're going to, and it's all business, and it's getting the job done. And it's like going out for a shift in hockey, right? It's all business, right? You're trying to win, and it's win. You got no other choice. It's all win, 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 right? And that's how I was brought up. So I really closely related. I'm like, that's what I want to do. It seems like it's pretty much exactly the same, and it really is. And so I knew what I wanted to do, and I took a co-op. And then right as soon as I graduated high school, I became a volunteer firefighter. Then I became a part-time firefighter. I did a little bit of dispatch, and then right into full-time at 23 years old. So yeah, I knew what I wanted to do for sure when I was young.
Now I got to ask this. This is a little ridiculous, but so you're a hockey player. Did you keep all your teeth? All your teeth real?
Yeah, so the 4 top ones are chipped, but I didn't knock out a full tooth. And I'll tell you, I was actually a fighter too. So I actually have the all-time penalty minutes for the junior team.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
It'll never be touched either because the game's changed so much that I pretty much fought every game, right? So it's funny, and I didn't lose a full tooth. So there you go. I protected myself pretty well.
There you go. Good for you. Good for you.
Good question.
Now, I got to ask, so what is your older sister and your younger brother? What do they do?
So my brother's a carpenter, and he does art. Actually, he's a really, really good artist. And my sister runs a bar here in Kingston. Yeah, she's a manager.
Very cool.
And owner.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How far were you away from home when you had your accident, when you wrecked? Like you said, you're out in the country. How far were you from your home? And you say the fire department was 17 minutes away.
So I was actually living at my best friend's out in the country. I was literally 2 kilometers from the house. I had just left his house where I was living. So just left the house. And so out there where I was is a volunteer fire department. So it's South Frontenac Fire. And so they're not sitting waiting at the station, right? So they have to go to the station, get the truck, then respond. So that's why it took a little longer. Plus I was literally at the very end of a back windy road, right? So it just took time to get there.
Yeah, man. But to have those doors open to go into the emergency room and all the guys be standing right there, that is amazing.
Yeah.
How did that? How did that hit you? Like, how did you not? I would have just started bawling.
Oh, I mean, I think it was very obvious. It was what I needed. It was one of those another little pick me up that I was like, okay, it's gonna be okay, right? But thinking back on it, like it chokes me up because it's like that just shows the brotherhood, the sisterhood of the fire department, and any group, right? Military or the police department, any group like that has that solidarity, right? They have that. They're there for each other, and so it was a turning point for sure. It was like, okay, I'm gonna keep fighting, and so. Once I wheeled through that tunnel, though, it was another 2 hours before they were trying to get painkillers into me. And so I had been in an accident in 2007, a snowmobile accident, and I'd had painkillers before. And so I had a bit of a tolerance to it. And there's a bit of a story behind that too. So they couldn't get on top of the pain. I didn't realize at the time, and I'll tell you in a second what else was wrong with me. But then the doctor finally came over and he's like, we got to put you in a coma. And I was begging him. I said, please, please, like it was 2 hours of suffering at that time, and my leg was ripped off, and I was still fighting it. And I was begging him to put me in a coma, and they did. And I was in a coma for eight days. And during those 8 days, during those 8 days, I had eight surgeries when I was in a coma. And I remember waking up, and so I opened my eyes, and my mom's right there. And she's like, it's okay, you're alive. And I thought I had died. So in my mind, when I was in a coma, it was this weird sequence of events going on in my brain, but I had thought I had died, and I was okay with it. I was like, I tried, I gave it my all. I never quit. Right. And so when I woke up, I was pretty happy. And my mom was like, you're alive, but don't move. And I had this neck collar on, and I was strapped to the bed. And she goes, Mike, you can't move. You broke your back in 3 spots, and you broke your neck in 2 spots on top of the leg. Right. I only knew I'd ripped my leg off.
Yeah.
And my leg was reattached and in this big halo, one of those big leg halos. Right. Yep. And there was no skin on it. It looked like Frankenstein. And so I could barely look down at it. And I'm like, Mom, I pushed the motorcycle off myself. I was crawling around throwing bike parts up. Like, how's my neck and back broken? You're just lucky it didn't paralyze you or do any serious damage. And they put 2 12-inch rods up my vertebrae, up my spine.
Yeah.
And funny story, about a year and a half after my accident, I was doing deadlifts in the gym against the doctor's orders. And I snapped 2 of the screws on the rods that were in my back. And so I keeled over at like a 90-degree angle, and I couldn't stand up straight because the rods were pushing on me. And so I had to go in for emergency surgery, and they took the rods out. And at that time, my back had fused itself together. And so I didn't need the rods anyways. And so, so I got lucky. I got the rods taken out about a year and a half later by my own, fault.
Because now, was that ever an intention, or are you just going to live with rods for the rest of your life?
They said that if there's no problems, we'll just leave them in there. Right. That was the idea. But then I kind of screwed that up. But I'm glad they're out of there now, because I do have more movement now without them in there.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah. So, but funny story. They tell you not to do certain things, and I'm in the gym doing deadlifts and bust through that.
That's your personality.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So,
well, let me ask you this. Do you still ride?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And so I'm a believer that, accidents are going to happen. That spot where I hit the deer, there are deer crossing there every single day by the dozens. It was just, I wasn't being cautious enough, I guess you could say. And an accident happened. And so I'm not going to quit doing what I love. So I still have a bike. I can't use the back brakes, right? The back brake pedal. So I have a valve that runs my front and back brakes together and splits at 60/40.
Okay. So you,
yeah. And that's just a couple things like that I modified.
So it's your right leg that you're missing.
Yes.
Yep. Right leg. All right. So, okay. You get out, you're in the hospital, you get out, you start rehabilitating. How long, well, before I jump too far ahead, how long did it take you to get comfortable walking on a prosthetic leg?
Yes. So when you first get to the, I call it my leg guy, right? He was like, okay, so this takes time. We got to, go slow. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going to do it. Like, I want to do it today. Right. Kind of thing. Right. So you got to prepare your stump. And then, so the first day I put on my first leg, and he's like, okay, I want you to hold the rails and just take a couple steps. And I just take right off walking. Right. And he's like, oh, or you can just do that. Right. And, and so I've been a pain in the ass for Marty Robinson's my guy here in Kingston. And I've been a pain in the ass for him for years now, because I push every limit. Right. If they say do 10 push-ups, I do 1,000, that kind of thing. Yeah. Right. And so the other thing for him though was designing the first ever firefighter leg to be used in service. Right. It's never been done before. And so we had no one else to go off of. So he got to we just trial and errored it till we figured it out. And
now, with that being brought up, so I know not everybody watching may not know this, but prosthetic legs, like you can have ones that are hydraulic, you can have ones with microprocessors in it. So which leg did y'all design, or what are you using now as a fireman that can handle you wearing your gear, be suited up, and if you're in somewhere that's hot? Of course, I know the suits do a little bit, but I mean, what was the biggest hurdle y'all faced with creating this leg?
So I'm going to rewind a little bit. So when I was in the hospital, the day they came in to tell me, so they reattached my leg, right? But then 3 days later, it just died. It wasn't taking, right? There's no blood flow. The doctor comes in and says, we're going to amputate your leg. And so I cried, right? My family grieved for about an hour. And then I'm sitting there thinking to myself, my leg's not growing back. So what am I going to do? And I told my dad, I said, Dad, grab that iPad that's sitting right there. And I said, type in what the best prosthetic leg in the world is. I want to know. I need it. Right. And he's just like, yeah, okay, whatever, a little jumping ahead a little bit, but whatever. And we typed it in and up pops this Autobot X3 microprocessor leg, waterproof, dust proof, it's like the best of the best. I'm like, I need that one right there. I need it now. And he's kind of laughing. He's like, yeah, okay, well, I'll let, right. And lo and behold, 4 months later, I got my first one. And about 2 months after that, I got my second one. And that's the leg I use, is the Autobot X3. Now I know the X4 has come out now, and that'll be my next one. But and it's the leg that can take the test of time, I guess you could say, because we've put it through everything, and it can handle it. Yeah. And if it wasn't for
that's the one I'm wearing right now.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, and I knew that I've been told, my prosthetist said that the X4 is out. And I haven't requested it yet because I've not had this one too long. Well, it's one that I had, then, had to get it turned in because sometimes it has little functions to it, but it is an amazing leg.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not surprised that's the one you wear.
Yeah.
So now, how high above the knee are you?
I'm just above the knee. I've got a pretty long stump to work with.
Yeah. Which is a huge advantage. People don't think about that. I tell people all the time, I'm like, the higher up that amputation goes, the harder it is. Like, people that are at the hip, like, they're usually like, I've met some, but most people, they use their wheelchair a lot.
Yeah.
Because it is so much work. So yeah, having a longer residual limb makes a difference. Now, okay, you get that. Tell us about how you got back into being a fireman with this new body you got.
Yeah. So once I got the leg and I started working out, I started looking more like I do now, and and getting in shape. I was like, I can do this. And I'm thinking to myself, so I went to the fire chief. I said, what do I got to do to get back to the floor? And he's just like, Mike, it's never been done before. You're kind of putting me on the spot. But
you said
it, right? Yeah. But being the guy he's like, I mean, let's figure it out. Let's go from there. And he goes, if you can. And so they met a couple times and we had some meetings, and then he's like, comes back and let's meet and talk about this. If you can pass the test you did to get on the fire department when you got hired, basically, right? If you can still pass that test, then you can keep your job, right? Because you can still do the job. That's the requirement to be here. And so, being on the fire department already obviously helped because I've done all these movements and stuff a million times. And so I just started going to the training grounds with my crew members. They all showed up to help me. And we just started, drilling over and over and over until I got good at everything and I was ready. And I went to them and said, I'm ready. And ended up passing the test and actually having like some better times than two-legged people on some of the stuff. Yeah. And so that we went from there, and I got, so I was a year and a half from the accident to when I came back to the floor full time.
Oh, that is fast.
Yeah. And in the meantime, like I came back to work 4 months later at a desk job at the fire department.
So you were there. You were already engrossed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was there every day. I was practicing. I was doing all my stuff. Right. So I was more than ready. And so, yeah, at the time, no one had done it that we had known of in North America. And there was a guy named Brandon Anderson in his Fisher's Fire Department, Indiana. He lost his leg at the same time. And so him and I were talking a little bit back and forth, trying to figure out how we're going to do this, right?
Oh, how perfect was that?
Yeah. And so he actually got back to work 2 months before me, but he only lost his leg. So I tell him he's a big because he only lost his leg. I broke my neck and my back and lost my leg. And I was still like 2 months behind him.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Now, wait a minute. Okay. Now, when you're in the training ground, you're getting ready to take your test again. As you're training, what was the most challenging? What was the one thing that you just really maybe even thought, I don't know how this is going to work? Even if you didn't think that, what did you have to push and work the hardest on?
Stairs, obviously, because, it's not just walking up the stairs. You're carrying a 60-pound hose roll and the irons, another 30 pounds of irons, and then you've got your pack on. So you're carrying like 100 extra pounds or more, and going up on a prosthetic leg, right? And so you're not actually able to use the leg how it's supposed to going upstairs. I do 2 steps at a time with my left
2 steps at a time. Yep.
Yep. And I just pound it out, put my head down, grit my teeth. And so I still do that. So I just got promoted actually to captain recently, acting captain. And thank you. And so I'm usually, I'm like, okay, boys, we're going upstairs, and I'll just hump it up there because I got to prove a point, right? And yeah. So I try to beat everyone up there, and I still just grit my teeth and do it. It sucks, but it only sucks for a short time, so it's not that bad.
I guarantee, even if you haven't noticed it, I guarantee you have raised the bar at that station. Because I mean, everybody is probably pushing themselves a little harder every day because of what you've accomplished and what you're doing.
Yeah, there's not a lot of excuses anymore, because they'll just look over me like that. Someone will go to make an excuse, and then they'll look over and go, never mind.
That is awesome. Now, okay, shifting gears a little bit, the mental aspect. What did you battle with? What do you still battle with? Like, what was it like for you mentally? Not just, obviously you're a physical guy. You're like, I'm gonna put my head down, grit my teeth, I'm gonna go do it. But what did you deal with mentally and emotionally going through this, accepting it, everything that you did and still do? I mean, it's been how many years? Like 8, 9 years?
Yeah. Yep. It has.
9 years.
So going back a little bit, in 2007, I had this snowmobile accident, and I shattered my femur, broke my kneecap, broke my tibia, fibia, broke my
same leg.
No, my good leg, my
good leg, yeah.
Other, yeah. And I broke my ulna. I have a titanium plate in my arm, a titanium femur, 33 pins and screws on my left leg, my good leg. So I went through a pretty good accident in 2007 on a snowmobile, hit an island in the middle of the night in a snowstorm. And I had to crawl. I had to crawl back on this island, and I was going to light this cottage on fire to save myself. And it's a whole nother story, right? It's a whole other hour story. So I've been through some mental stuff before, and that's when I got addicted to painkillers. And so that was before this big epidemic of painkillers, and they were just handing them out, and I was taking them. And then so found out I was addicted, and the shame that came with that, and being embarrassed about it and all that, and I had to go get some help to get off of it. And then in 2011, my girlfriend of 4 years that I had met while I was getting back in shape from my first accident, committed suicide. And I came home and found her on the couch in our house. And dude, like, I would rather crash that snowmobile, crash that motorcycle 100 times and go through the mental and emotional pain that you go through when you go through something like that. Because I blame myself, right? How did I not know? Why wasn't I here? All those things that you do, right? When you go through this. And so I've been through the ringer by the time I got to this motorcycle accident already. And I dealt with the depression from that. And so what happened after she died is I relapsed on painkillers and basically spiraled out of control to the point where I got arrested. And I could have lost my job there too. And when I went and stood in front of the judge saw that what had all happened since 2007 with the death of my girlfriend and everything I was going through. And he said, listen, son, you're going to get a second chance here. I'm going to give it to you. And don't you look back, because I won't do this again. Right. Kind of thing. And so because if you have a criminal record, you're not a firefighter anymore. Right. And so that all just got completely thrown out, and I kept my job. Thank goodness. Cause that's all I had at that time. Right. And I powered forward, and then the motorcycle accident happens. But then it's almost like the motorcycle accident was just like, here we go again. Right. What's next? Try me again. Right. See, I'm going to get through it. I don't care what you throw at me. I'm still going to be here, and I'm still going to be living. Right. And all of that, man, all that stuff I went through paid off, never giving up through all that stuff. Cause that's how I have my family today. And I don't know if did you read that part of the story?
No, not yet. No. I wanted, like, when Chuck told me about you, like, I looked at your Instagram account, then I was like, I just want, like, I knew I wanted to know your story. And I was like, I'm gonna wait till I interview him, because I want to hear all this firsthand. So tell me, keep going. Come on.
So while I'm in the hospital,
You've got two children now, right?
yeah. So I have Lincoln, who's 5 years old. He's my son. And I have Kiana, who's 14, who's my stepdaughter. And
Okay.
she's got Down syndrome, and she is the life of every party, every room she walks into. She is the best. Anyway, so what happened was, so I'm wheeling around after I was in a rehabilitation hospital called Providence Care, and it was St. Mary's at the time, but it's Providence Care now. And I'm wheeling around and I'm bored, and I look like Joe Dirt in a wheelchair. Okay, I had a beard. I normally I'm clean shaven because of firefighting, right? I had long hair. I was like 150 pounds. I had a neck brace on. I was in a wheelchair with my stump sticking right out, right? And I just looked like this Joe Dirt skinny rat in a wheelchair, and I'm wheeling around looking for hot nurses because I was bored. And I'm a single, right? So single 36-year-old looking for hot nurses. So I'm wheeling around, and I was actually lost at that time. I had just been wheeling around shooting, like talking to people, and I go by this one room and I look in, and there's this nurse bent over her patient, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the nicest butt I've ever seen. And I go to stop and I get caught, and she turns around. And when she turned around, I remember thinking to myself, oh, she's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. And I'm just like, and I'm usually pretty good with words. And I was just like, you
lost it.
And so I wheel in and I make small talk, and we chat for like 10 minutes, and I leave. And I remember I raced back to my room because I was saying her name in my head. I'm like, forget her name. And I Facebooked her, right? And so I Facebooked her, and I just said, nice to meet you. And later on after her shift, she had responded back, nice to meet you. And that was it. And so a few months down the road, I started looking more like myself, right? And I've got my leg, and I'm training to be a firefighter again and stuff. And she posts something on Facebook. And so I just comment on it, and we start chatting back and forth. And I'm like, screw it. Do you want to go on a date? And she answers back, yes. And I'm like, she's probably just, I'm that one-legged guy. She feels bad for me. Whatever. I'll take my chance. I'll take it because she's beautiful. And she's like, I just had this feeling, right? And so we go on a date, and we go for coffee, and we go for a walk, and we come back to the cars. And I did the worst thing you can possibly do on a date. I look her in the eyes, and I say, I want to marry you and have children. She literally got in her car and left.
Like, I gotta get out of here.
She's like, you're crazy. Got in her car and left, and ghosted me. 2 months. I messaged her a few times, never replied back. I'm like, did I ever blow that? But oh well, I get it, right? Like, I'm crazy, right? But I had this feeling, dude. I'd never met a woman, and I was a hockey player, dude, and I played that role pretty good. I liked women, and and I'd never had this feeling with a woman before. And as soon as I laid eyes on her, I knew I had to be with her, and I was going to be with her for the rest of my life. And so a couple months go by, and apparently this girl's thinking of me, waking up thinking of this one-legged guy, being like, why did he do that? Why did he say that? What, like, there's got to be more to this. Why am I waking up thinking about this guy? So she messages me back, and she says, I'll give you another chance, but just pump the brakes a bit, bud. Right. And, so long story short, we got married in 2018, and we're living our best lives. I'm living my best life, all because I took a shot at my very worst, when, I should never, I had no business asking that woman out. And my life was in shambles. I didn't even know if I had a job still at that time. Right. And just my whole past, all the stuff I carry with me. And she sat me down, and so when I got to that, I was still on some painkillers at that time again, unfortunately, after the second accident. And I came out of the hospital saying, like, I have a problem. I shouldn't be on these kind of thing. And they're like, well, you have to be for a bit, and we'll work on that.
But you were aware. At this point, you're aware.
I'm aware. And this woman, Angela, she sat me down on my couch a couple months after meeting her. And she said, listen, today you're going to make a decision, and you're going to never be with another woman, and you're never going to take a painkiller again or another drug. And she said, you got to decide right now, like, what's going to happen. And so I made that decision on that couch that day. And to this day, since that day, sitting on that couch, I've never took another drug, and I've never been with another woman, obviously. And my life couldn't be better, bro. It's amazing.
I love it. I love that. What an amazing story. Yeah. And so is she still a nurse? Is she?
Yep, she's a nurse at Providence Care, where I got my rehabilitation. Yep, it's crazy, man. It's a crazy story. She and the everyone asks like, was she your nurse? I'm like, no, she wasn't my nurse. I was just out creeping through the hospital, right?
She was in a different ward.
Yeah. But pretty crazy, man. To how it came full circle. From my worst to now my best, all because I took a shot, right, and never gave up.
Yeah, and now you have an amazing stepdaughter, and then your son. You say a year and a half. Is that what you said?
Oh, no, he's 5, and he's just a terrible.
5. I'm sorry. I thought you said a year and a half. I apologize.
Oh, no, Brian, and bro, he's a mini me. He's a mini me.
I love it.
He's got a little 50cc 4-wheeler. He's got a little kitty cat snowmobile, right? And he's just a terrorizer. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, how could he not be? It's in his blood.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna be. Oh man, I'm gonna be in trouble.
Yeah.
But as long as he doesn't do all the crazy stuff I did, yeah, and he takes care of himself.
Now, what do you do for yourself, for your mental health, for staying on track, being your best self? And then in a minute, I want to talk about your fitness. But like, what is your mental health right now? Like, what do you do?
I run. So I started doing these Zoom calls called Locker Talk. So all my, through my sporting career and around the fire hall, the guys call me Locker. Okay. That's my nickname.
Yeah. That's a cool
because of my last name, Loughlin. Right. So, I started this Zoom call called Locker Talk, where men can get together and just talk, and just like guys like us can get together and not be embarrassed or think they're too macho, too alpha to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing that holds us guys back. And then I also just started one called Locker Talk Amputee for amputees. And then there's a ladies locker that I don't run personally, but I started for females. And so it's all to, just to talk. And that's what people need. And I know from experience, that's all people need is just to talk.
Yes.
Dude.
Yes.
Especially new amputees. When I meet an amputee that has never talked to another amputee and they're depressed and they think their life's over and they're out of shape and they're sitting on their couch thinking, poor me.
It's over. Yeah.
It takes 30 minutes on a phone call with them to see them sitting on the edge of their couch, talking about what they're going to do the next day. They're going to join the gym. That's all it takes is just talking to someone else that's been there, done that. And they realize they're not alone. And so that is my healing as well, is helping other people. And I only found that recently in the last 2-3 years, was like helping other people heals us. Right.
Oh my God. Like, yeah, it does. Like I was just talking to somebody about that the other day. It's like, there's no better feeling and benefit than helping someone else. Like it is a joy inside. Like I get it when I go and visit somebody in the hospital, or if I'm just somewhere on stage telling my story, and I feel like I say something that hopefully impacts one person in the audience. You know what I mean? Or someone comes up to you afterwards and you just feel like, oh, it is like, this was all for a reason. You know what I mean? Like
that's a good one right there. That when someone comes up after you've done your talk,
yes,
and they tell, like they say what you've done for them and what they're like, and see the joy in their eyes. Is that not like, that gives me butterflies to think of it right now, actually.
It's the best part. Like that, like my wife knows how great a speech went when I called her and suddenly I'm all bubbly and excited. And I'm like, da, 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 da. And she's like, cause she knew that it wasn't so much the speech. It was that I had someone or even a few people, whatever, stop me afterwards.
Yep.
And want to thank me or share their story or whatever it is. And that just lights me up. Like, I feel like
there's nothing else.
There's nothing better.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, all right. Fitness. You're a fitness coach.
Yeah. So I started.
What are you doing with it?
Yeah. So I started Limb Loss Fitness. That's
awesome.
Yeah. And so
you have your fireman axe and a leg.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
And so I started that because being a firefighter, I'd have all kinds of amputees asking me, how do you do this? How do you do that? Like, how's it possible you're a firefighter? And then they're asking, wanted tricks and tips and how are they going to get in shape and what exercises should they do? And I was answering that stuff nonstop. And I was like, you know what? There's a real need for this. And so that's when I started Limb Loss Fitness. And so I just, help out people and give them a meal plan and a workout schedule and some exercises they can do. And we modify it to whatever their amputee is. your amputation is, and we just go from there. And it's fun. It's rewarding as well, obviously.
Now, is there a website? And I forgot to mention earlier, your Instagram is at Firefighter Amp.
Yeah.
That's on Instagram.
Yeah.
Now, how do most people reach out to you that are looking for this help?
So I like when people get me on Instagram, but if you want to go on my website, www.limblostfitness.com, you can also, you can check out what I do, and you can get a hold of me from there too, or get my socials on there and get a hold of me. But
Limb
Instagram is the best.
You say it was limblostfitness.com.
Correct.
I love it. Okay. limblostfitness.com. All right. Now, with regards to fitness, what has been the hardest thing for you to do in that aspect with being an amputee? Like, what do you find the most difficult? Of course, even just being a fireman, like you're killing it and getting after it. But when you're in the gym, what workout is the most challenging, and what workout do you find the most rewarding and do you enjoy the most?
So just as far as workouts go, obviously legs. I mean, people always ask me, do you even do legs? And I'm like, yeah, once in a while, but my left leg gets so much work from doing stairs and doing all the extra work it does. I really don't work it out too much because it doesn't need the extra strain. It's as big as it needs to be. You know how that goes, right? The big calf and the gross thing.
Yeah.
Everyone comments on the calf muscle, but
I love it when people compliment my calf. I'm like, yeah,
right?
When you got one, you gotta do all the work. Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't enjoy leg workouts. Even when I do the one leg, I'm just not into it. But my strength is doing like a chest workout, specifically a body part. But I also started doing a little bit of CrossFit here and there, and I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it. Just the team aspect thing, and where everyone's cheering each other on, kind of thing, so yeah, it was. I did it pretty hard there for about 2 years, and kind of pumped the brakes on that a little bit as I got busier with other things. But and then the newest thing I started doing is jujitsu. And so I just started rolling. Yeah. And I loving it. I went down with a buddy of mine, Greg Laughlin, down in Utah, and he kind of showed me the ropes of how an amputee can roll and be successful. And it amped me up. And I came back here to the gym here, the YGK Jiu-Jitsu. And now I've been going 3 times a week and loving it. So it's such a
cardio. And the cardio that comes out of wrestling, it's hard to find that. I've run marathons that were less strenuous than time on a mat, especially against someone who's really good.
Yeah.
And they're just toying with you and just whooping you.
I got whooped today at noon by a he's a blue belt, but he's really like probably the black belt. Because apparently he beat all the black belts in my gym, but he just toyed with me, and I was so tired at the end, and I was dripping sweat, and I had to sit there for like 5 minutes just to be able to move again, because I was so tired from wrestling this guy, and he was just toying with me the whole time. It was incredible. Yeah. It's so humbling, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny too. Another sport that I picked up in the last couple of years is sledge hockey. And so, you know what that is? So it's sled hockey in US, sledge hockey in Canada.
Oh, yes. Okay. Sled hockey. Yes. Explain it though, because in case other people don't know what it is.
So it's for anybody with a disability that can, that's still got, there's 2 one-armed guys in the tournament this weekend. Which is incredible to do, right? Picking both sides. Yep. You've got 2 little short hockey sticks with picks on them, and you're on a sled that sits on hockey skate blades, and you rip around the ice and play hockey. And so being a hockey player, I thought, I'll just jump on that sled, tear it up, score 100 goals, right? Talk about humbling once again, right? Get off the sled. I was so bad. I was so frustrated that I almost gave it up. And I really did. I was like, I just can't do this. I'm too far behind. I'm doing this with kids that have done it for 20 years because they were born this way or whatever, right? And then being me, I was just like, no, you're not a quitter, right? You're going back. And so I went back and I slowly got better. And we actually won the bronze medal in the tournament this weekend. And I scored the game-winning goal. And
even better.
Yeah, and I had the most goals on our team too. So I had a really good weekend, and so I've been consistently getting better. I'm still not great. Okay, I'm still not. I'm a. There's like
Sounds pretty impressive.
there's like A, B, and C players. And I'm still like a C player, but I'm enjoying it now. So
Now, have you ever, not trying to throw more stuff at you, but are you familiar with wheelchair rugby?
I've seen it. I haven't played it.
Yeah, that's a pretty intense sport as well.
And there's some and there's lacrosse as well, right? Wheelchair
there?
lacrosse. Yeah, I guess so. I've been invited to play this summer.
Oh, that one's new. I didn't know about that one. That's awesome.
I mean, I'm sure you can pretty much play anything if you want to figure it out, right?
Oh, yeah. But no, that's awesome. I'm going to look that up later. So there's wheelchair lacrosse. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know the wheelchair rugby for the U.S. trains not far from where I live. Like there's a Paralympic training site. So
Really?
I've seen these wheelchair rugby guys going at it. And it's people are like, you want to do that? I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I got enough things going on.
Yeah. Now, have you ever thought, or have you, I may be asking a question, have you ever, a book? Do you have a book?
Yeah, let's just add a few here. So what happened was I was doing a lot of speaking in schools and colleges, universities around Kingston and area.
Yeah.
And I wanted to step my game up a little bit because I enjoy doing it, and it was really resonating with the people that were listening. And I was getting the people coming up to me saying it changed, it's changed them, and they loved hearing it, and they're telling me and getting that feeling, right? So a good friend of mine, Jarrett Robertson, who we grew up playing hockey together since we were 10 years old. We've been best friends. He's the guy that I can call right now, and he will drive down here from Whitby right now for me. He's that guy I can call at 3 a.m, and he will get out of his bed and drive right down here. Do you know what I mean? He's that guy.
Yeah.
And I can talk about anything with him. I've always been able to talk about anything with him. It's never been, I can't talk about this because you're a guy kind of thing, or like it's too, too sentimental or anything. This is the guy, and he's our kind of guy too. So anyways, he started a platform called Make It a Great Day. And so he's really been out there on social media and stuff. And he did some speaking as well. And so we're like, let's get together and do some speaking together. And so it's evolved and it's changed over the last little while. But we started something called Untapped 60. So it's right over this shoulder, actually. Oh, this shoulder.
Yep.
And so we wrote a book together. And so it's my story. And what happens is during my story, he'll cut in and he explains what was going on, in my mind, or what was going on, or with the suicide or the accident, or how was I able to overcome this, and he just has little inserts in there on how how to make your life better and how to get through.
Oh, what a
incredibly
cool
hard
concept.
stuff. So, because we both, read lots of books and we wanted to do something different. And so there's lots of books about trauma out there and people that have overcome it, but there's nothing quite like this one. And so there's our book, and we're both on the cover there. Jared and I.
Up 60.
Yep. And so these are for sale on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and you can get a copy of it. It's an easy read. I'm not a huge, reader. Obviously I can read, but I've read.
I can read.
I haven't read 1,000 books, right? I just wasn't that guy growing up. But I told him I want to make it for people like me who aren't really great at reading and won't sit down long enough, but can still get through this in a week or so or whatever and enjoy it. So yeah. And so now we've started Untapped 60, which we have a website, untapped60.com. It has courses on how to make your life better. Why you should drink water, why you should laugh, how to be a better person, all these different courses that are free on there. You can hire us for keynote speaking, anywhere in North America.
From that website, untapped60.com.
Yeah. Or you can also message me. So what it's evolved to is Jarrett, we have an introduction. Jarrett goes on, introduces me, a video plays a little bit, and then I come out and tell my story, and then we're both part of Untapped 60, which is helping people. And Jarrett's the kind of guy you can talk to and you feel like $1 million when you're done talking to him. He just knows how to make you feel really good about yourself and about the rest of your life. So I knew he was the right guy to pull on board. And I knew he was the right guy that would kick my butt to get me doing this kind of stuff. And he has been. So yeah.
Oh man, I'm glad I asked that question. That is awesome. Untapped 60. I love it. That is amazing. All right. All right. Before we go any further, so I've got a couple of questions. So the studio that I use for my podcast is in Chuck, the producer. It's in his gym. He has Ellison Fitness. He does training. His wife does training. It's an incredible gym. They have strongman competitions here. He's part of strongman, the Alabama representative. Yep. He represents all the state of Alabama. Dude's a beast.
Wow.
Dude is a beast. So we have a couple of questions from some of the gym members, because word travels fast that we're doing a podcast, because we have to tell people to be quiet. So we have a couple of questions. One of them is from Alex, which is Chuck's wife. What has been the most challenging adaptation as a firefighter? So as a firefighter, what have you had to overcome the most, or make changes to it in order to do efficiently? What has been that biggest thing?
So we touched on it earlier, but stairs, but then what comes with being a firefighter is ladders as well. And so,
that was what was on my mind, because I know stairs are hard, but ladders, like as an above it, people don't think until you say it, but you don't have your knee to bend your leg up and go on the next one. So what do you do for ladders?
So once again, I'm just 1 foot at a time, over and over, pick up the pace and just don't miss a rung as you go. Right. And so it took a lot of practice. It's one of the things I practiced probably the most, was going up and down ladders. And we would set up the 100-foot platform ladder, and I would climb those 100 rungs all the way to the top and all the way back down over and over, and talk about the burn of your left leg, your good leg, right?
Yeah.
Just do it all.
You know what? And I have to reiterate what you said. Like, you said it, and I've got to say it again. You practice it the most because you know it's the most challenging. And I think too often it gets in our head, that's hard. I'm not going to do it. But I always tell people, like I tell my kids when they were younger and in school, I'm like, what's your favorite subject? They're like this. And one time, one of my sons was failing a class, and he's got A's and all these others. And I was like, I don't care if these drop to a B. I want you to focus on what you struggle with. That's how you improve. And when you said it, you're like, well, that's what I practice the most, because it is the most challenging. And that's why you're so successful, Mike, because you go after what is hard, what is tough. And that is amazing.
I appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, no, it is incredible. Man. All right. We got a gym member. Alex said, how accurate how accurate are the TV shows about firefighters?
Not accurate at all. So
yeah,
the most accurate TV show that for firefighting was Rescue Me. I don't know if you remember that one, but
that sounds familiar. Chuck's nodding his head.
Yeah, it was hilarious, because it was more about like what happened off the job and like in the station and the pranks.
Who was in it?
Sorry?
Who was in it?
Oh, Dennis Leary.
Okay. Yep. I know exactly what it is. Yes.
And so and you'd ask any firefighter and they'll say, yeah, no, Rescue Me was the closest. These other ones are a whole bunch of like women, female and male models, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Going through the worst case scenario every single call. Like a call that we would get once a year, and they go to it, every day, every call. Right. So it's not very accurate, but a lot of the equipment is, the gear they wear, the stations, the trucks, all that is very accurate, right? They make sure that's all detailed. But it's
they probably do. Like I know a lot of guys that got out of the military and they work for production companies to make sure that, as far as the director will let them, they'll still take control. But that guy's job, and I'm sure they do it with firemen too, they have someone on hand that's like, this is what we use, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And they're the best movies. The military ones is the ones that they had direct, contact with, like a Navy SEAL or whoever.
Yes. Yep. Somebody that's like, no, this is how it is. Yep.
It's the details, right? The detail.
Yep. All right. Here's another one. So Susan said, what's the most rewarding time as a firefighter? What have you done? Like, now you mentioned, and when you were talking about TV shows that have model-esque people who are doing, the worst case scenarios, what was yours? Like, do you have a moment that was like just something that afterwards you're like, I did it. I made that happen, even with what has happened to me?
So I was lucky enough when I was a younger firefighter. So I'd been on maybe 10 years at the time. So this is when I had two legs still, that I got to save a woman from a house fire. And actually, like,
Yeah.
if I hadn't have grabbed her and put her over my shoulder and ran out of the house, she wouldn't have made it. And so early on in my career, I had that opportunity, which doesn't happen, you know. Thankfully, most of the time people are out of the burning building and you have to pull them out. But just recently, I went to a house fire as an amputee. And so when you're in a house fire, it's never a clean house that's got no junk piled everywhere. It's usually in rougher areas, unfortunately. And they're the ones that have the outlets over jammed, or they're using candles to heat or whatever it might be. And so a lot of the time they're dirtier houses and they're hard to get around in. So especially for an amputee, walking blind through a house, right, in a fire, smoke, heat, right, flames, and you're trying to walk and you're tripping. And so I actually was able to pull out a dog and save a dog. So it wasn't a person, but a dog a lot of the time is someone's family member, and it was for that person. And it was for that person, and the dog made it because I happened to trip my way out of that house. I remember picking up the dog, and it was a bigger dog. And so I picked it up and I bear hug it. I'm trying to walk out, and I went down and I tripped twice. I went down to my prosthetic knee, and I muscled my way back up, like with my one leg, doing like a split squat almost, right? And kept going. And I fell again. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, do I have to put this dog down? I'm like, nope, not giving up. And then I got to a set of stairs, and then you got to get down these stairs blindly. As you know, you got to activate your Autoblock X3. You got to activate it on the heel to make it go down the stairs. While I'm doing that blindly, I miss a stair and I stutter step down the stair, but grabbed the railing and stood up. Anyways, made it out the door. And these are the things people worried about me getting done, right? Can you still do it? It's like, sure, I can do it. Maybe, that was the first time doing it. And it was like, okay, I know what I need to, expect next time. But there was never a doubt in my mind, that I wasn't actually going to make it out of there or finish the job. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, so like a normal two-legged guy trips over the same stuff is when when I got talking to the guys after, they're like, dude, I tripped on that same thing. Right. And these are guys with two legs. I'm like, oh, you did? They're like, yeah, like you can't see it. You're in the dark. I'm like, yeah.
But still, I'll tell you what, I couldn't do what you do. I have a friend of mine that's a fire chief, and he loves to have me come out because he runs the fire school, and I'll come and I'll speak to the class, and then they'll have me go through their smokehouse and everything. And I never run with the guys. I'm just in there with, one of those monitors that you can see the heat movement and everything.
Yep.
And I'm super cautious. It's not even, this is a smokehouse. Like I'm not even near a fire. They're doing that in the other room, and it's just hot and smoky. And even in my own house, if the lights are off, it can be in a room that I know there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But I'm taking little steps.
Oh yeah, I get it, man. I totally get it. So yeah.
So that is amazing.
I think that goes back to a lot of my, my experience and my training, right? That I'd had throughout the years is like, I know that I'm not in trouble. Just don't panic. You're going to get out. Right. So,
yeah. Well, that would be something. I mean, your average person, you put them in that gear, you put them in a burning house, lights off, like that's where panic for us normal people would kick in. But no, your training allows you to just, hey, hold that dog. How big was the dog? I got to ask.
Oh, it'd been like a 80-pound dog, like pretty big.
Yeah. Well, that's a big dog.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have still been impressed if you'd have said a Chihuahua. I would have still been impressed. But an 80-pound dog, that is awesome. All right. So another thing that we like to do on the show is go through 3 questions of different levels. The first one's more of an icebreaker. Then we have one that's a little more meaningful. And then we have one that's a little more deep and raw. Okay. And I'm going to answer them with you. Chuck pulled them up. He gave me the paperwork, so I'm going to go through them with you. First one, let's see. The first one's always a little easier. If you could master any skill instantly, what would you choose?
So instantly into my mind is guitar.
You know what? Mine's harmonica. Like when I read it first thing, because I've got a harmonica and I want to start learning it. And I'm like, man, I wish I could just play this. You know what
Dude,
I
I
mean? Have
wish
you
I could
ever
just
practiced?
no, my brother is a musician, and he knows how to play like everything. And I was always jealous of that. And but it's so cool. Like he could just walk into a party and just pick up a guitar and start playing, and everyone just comes over, and he's like
Oh, yeah.
like a rock star. And I'm like, God, I wish I could have that feeling, you know? So
You
yeah,
know, yeah, my oldest son plays guitar. And I've always, and I've always had friends that were that guy that would break out the guitar. And it was always, and I always wanted to play the guitar, but never followed through with it. Now, I'm not even going to blame my arm. I follow a guy on Instagram that is above the elbow, plays guitar, like
no,
strums with it. Yes. And it's amazing. It is. I'll send you a link to his. But one day, this was years ago, I was like, well, what can I really do well with one hand? And I thought about the harmonica. Now, I've been tossing this idea around for 15 years now and still haven't followed through with it. But again, if I could do something instantly, it would be a harmonica. Because it's just, I don't know if it's as cool as the guitar. I don't know if harmonicas pick up chicks, but thankfully I'm married. I ain't got to worry about it.
oh yeah, exactly.
But yeah, guitar would be a good one. All right. The next one, more meaningful. What is something you've achieved that you don't get praise for, but you're deeply proud of?
I mean, coming back to work, I mean, I have my 15 seconds of fame, but no one gives me, they don't even like acknowledge it anymore. And I like that. And it's even for the city of Kingston, like a lot of people don't know I'm a firefighter, even in the city of Kingston still, because it wasn't really made that big a deal of.
Yeah.
You're
You're the only above the amputee in the country.
No, I know. And I've never, and so it's funny because like Brandon Anderson, like he got the key to the city and all this stuff. They made this big deal in America, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, you're a movie star, whatever, right? We don't care back here. You're just another Joe, right, on the street.
We got back to work.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter to me, but I just always thought, you know what, that's kind of, you're right. I'm 1 in 35 million. And I thought maybe they would have recognized it a little more, but this is the kind of stuff that I like, is talking to someone like you and you recognizing it, because that means more to me.
Well, you're a better person. Not that you would be this amazing, because you're a fireman, but you have, the book, you have the speaking, you're connecting with people, you're doing amazing stuff. I think it's absolutely astonishing what you're doing, because you do things that blow my mind, and I have people say that to me sometimes about something I did. I'm like, no, it's not that big a deal. But when I look at what you do, like I said, like going through a house in the dark, climbing a ladder, like, no, I ain't going up no ladders. It is amazing what you're doing. Absolutely amazing. I don't even know what to say. Like,
And honestly, that makes my day, right? This is the only praise I'll ever need, is from someone like you. Hearing this is like amazing, dude. And the people I get to meet now because of what happened to me, it's the coolest, man.
well, I'm gonna figure out how to get up to Kingston. I want to meet you in person. I was really hoping you were closer to Simcoe. We're up there every summer. My father-in-law's farm is in Simcoe.
Okay.
So we get up there and help. It's cash crops. It's been tobacco, ginseng, and now he's the sweet corn guy in Norfolk County. Like, he's the guy. He's got that good sweet corn that everybody lines up for. Like,
Nice.
it's good. I'd never had sweet corn right off, I don't even know the stalk or whatever until
Yep.
oh my God. It is
We grew up with that, right? We were spoiled like that. So
yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, I'm gonna go with
we'll make it happen.
so we will. No, I want to get up there. All right, let's do this one. It's a little more, let's see. When you're alone with your thoughts, what fear still lingers? What do you have in the back of your mind? Like, you're this amazing guy. You don't care about nothing. You're tough. You keep going. You run across an obstacle. You blow through it. But when you're alone, what's there? I'm not trying to, make it, where you're got to share anything too personal, but what is something that you're comfortable sharing that just lingers in your head? Do you have self-doubt? Do you worry about what's next?
Yeah. I mean, I think you just nailed it right there. It's like, I worry about, am I doing enough? I feel like I'm the kind of person who's always trying to do more, and I don't want to fail. And I guess I worry that I'll fail. At not just at like a certain thing, but just anything I do. I don't like to lose. I don't, you know, that never give up, don't like to lose attitude. But I always worry about being an amputee now and having my limitations that I never had limitations before. Will, you know, can I do everything that I put my mind to? Should I keep pushing? That kind of thing. And it's like, you know, no one wants to fail. No one wants to be a failure. And especially now that I have a family and stuff, right? I do everything for them, right? It's, you know, ultimately everything I do comes back to them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't want to fail them. I don't want to fail my family, my kids. I want to be a good father, dude. Being a good father is scary, right? Like, I don't want my son to hurt himself. I don't want him to grow up and hurt himself like I did and go through anything like I went through. That's a huge fear of mine. Oh, yeah. Right. It's like, I never want him to lose his girlfriend or anybody to suicide. I never want him to get in an accident where he's, you know, scared alone in the hospital, staring at the tiles at night. Yeah. You know, there's so many things that we know that we probably haven't even shared with our families and stuff. Like some of those lonely nights in the hospital, dude, are the scariest things I can remember. Right?
Oh, yeah, because I was going to say,
you think your life's over. You think, you know, and you're not sleeping, and you're like,
I was about to say, like you're going so much.
Change that. I'm a screw up. Like all these things, right?
Yeah. That's one thing that, you know, anybody that spent time in the hospital, especially if you've been on pain meds, your sleep is off. And when you wake up, you're awake. It doesn't matter what time it is, what's going on. And then it's just you and your thoughts. And there's nothing more terrifying right after something traumatic happens that you think that. And in fact, I'm going to roll into my next question that we're going to close with. If you were talking to somebody right now, let's imagine someone's watching this podcast, has just went through something traumatic. What, you know, it may not even be loss of a limb, just something like because you've experienced so many different things. What's one piece, if you had to give them one piece of advice, one small words of encouragement, what would they be?
Never give up. Never, ever, ever give up, because you don't know how close you are to living your best life. You know, I had so many times that I was, you know, this close to being like, should I just stop? And then if I had of, I wouldn't have what I have today. I wouldn't have my beautiful wife, my 2 kids, you know, doing all this other stuff for other people. So never, ever, ever give up. Don't do it.
Oh,
just keep pushing forward.
Powerful. Yeah, no, that's simple, but true. I love it. Look, everybody that's watching, his Instagram is Firefighter AMT. What's the website? Fitness?
Yeah, limlossfitness.com.
Limlossfitness.com.
And then Untapped60.com.
And you can find the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere. Untapped 60.
Yep, you got it.
I love it. You know what? And I hope people reach out. Well, you just keep doing your speeches, keep meeting people, keep doing what you're doing. And congrats on the promotion to being captain.
Thank you, sir.
Dude, you'll never be a failure. You're one of the most incredible people I've ever come across. And I am super impressed and honored to have had you on my podcast. Thank you for agreeing to come on. I look forward to meeting you in person.
Thanks very much.
All right. That's it, guys. Make sure and, hey, comment. Let us know what you think about it. Subscribe so you don't miss not only this episode, but any episodes coming. And I hope you enjoyed it, because this guy, Michael Laughlin, oh, you heard it. The guy's amazing. Thank you for joining us.